Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's options trading watch list. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend and are looking forward to getting back to trading here come Tuesday, actually, due to the market being closed on Monday in observance of President's Day. But we'll go over the market here as a whole and kind of what's setting up coming into this week and what the market is looking like and where it potentially could go. And then I will break down the 5 plays that I'm actually looking at for this upcoming week. So we'll get right into it here, starting off with the ES as I always do. And if we zoom in here a little bit, we can get a better picture of what we're looking at. So we did have this strong sell-off down here, probably to -4 ATR, which is usually pretty rare. Usually the stock falls down to -3 and then bounces, but it went down here. And then we did get our reversion back up to this mean, kind of chopped around a little bit. It looked like we could have started breaking back out to the upside, but it could not recapture this previous high here. And then it also rejected that level once again, falling back down to the downside. And what I'm closely watching here is this daily squeeze that's setting up that's losing its bullish momentum, and we have our stock price below that 21 EMA, which equals a recipe for more selling in the market. So I do think we could easily come retest these previous lows, if not this very low here, or anywhere between this -2 ATR or this -3 before we could look for another reversion back up to that mean. So its daily chart here is looking very bearish, in my opinion. Nothing about it's really showing me a whole lot of buying or people coming in and taking these back to the upside, so I am going to start playing now to that downside. Another thing to look at here are going to be these higher time frames. Definitely what I'm keeping my eye on is the weekly and actually the monthly time frame to kind of give me some frame of reference of when this market could potentially bottom or what we need to be looking at for the upcoming months. So the first one here is going to be this weekly, and last week was the first week we actually had a bearish or our histogram below that zero and the bearish momentum on the squeeze histogram. Since back here in what is this, like COVID, the beginning of COVID, so March 2020, so almost 2 years we've been in this um, aggressive bull run here since these COVID times, and now we are finally getting back to a time where we are dipping below the zero line on the squeeze histogram. So that's also telling me that we could see some more selling as well. And another thing to keep our eye on here is during that bull run, it would revert back to this 21 EMA on the weekly time frame, and then that's a great place to usually buy the dip because it would usually shoot back up to the upside. But now that structure is starting to change, and we no longer also have stacked EMAs in this time frame, is we're starting to reject that 21 EMA now to the downside. So we tried to get above it, couldn't. Tried to get above it, couldn't. And now we tried to get above the 8 EMA and actually went right to it and then rejected it this week, also closing below this 50 simple. So that's just showing me that this market's now changing its structure a little bit. It's no longer in this bull run, and we either could see a range-bound market between maybe these lows and these highs right here, or we could just start seeing a new downtrend depending on if this level can hold or if we start making lower lows here on the weekly time frame. The next thing that I'm actually keeping my eye on very closely now is this 8 and 21 EMA on the monthly time frame. So the last time we were below the 8 EMA on the monthly time frame was also back in 2020. This was in April before this long bull run happened. And last month we dipped quite below it, but we actually held it at the close of the month. And now this month, I know we haven't finished the month out yet, but it is looking to close below that 8 EMA for the first time in almost 2 years. We also are losing that bullish momentum on the squeeze histogram, which is saying that it easily could go retest this 21 EMA. And this is the place that I'm looking at for the market to kind of find a bottom before maybe we're going back to the upside. But so until either this 8 EMA is reclaimed or this 21 EMA is touched, that's kind of the areas that I'm looking at for potential support and now even resistance on the market as a whole. So always look at those higher time frames to kind of give yourself a better picture of what the overall market is actually doing and what it could be doing in the next few months or potentially even years. So now that is the ES. We can go over the other indices themselves as well. We'll start off here with the Qs, and these ones have been pretty weak, quite similar to the ES. We get this reversion off this strong selling, get rejected, hold that -1 ATR, which was nice because I thought we were potentially going to break right back down to these previous lows. Gives us the little fake out here, but can't recapture these previous highs. So then once again rejects, tries to revert, and is rejecting again. We also have this daily squeeze with the bearish momentum, so I think this one can easily come retest these previous lows, which I think it will this week. And then from there, we'll see if it can hold those levels or if we start making lower lows on the market as a whole. We do have negatively stacked DMAs, and we're in a deceleration stage, so those alone are showing me that the market, within the Qs at least, is very weak. So tech has been very weak here recently, and I think that it will continue going into these next few weeks just due to the overall structure. Next one here is going to be the Dow. This one also has negatively stacked DMAs in the daily time frame and has been rejecting actually around this 50 moving average. Our daily squeeze has lost that bullish momentum as long as rejecting this 21 EMA. This would have been your ideal spot to actually get short on this one because now we get this strong flush, which it should flush all the way down to this -2 or these previous lows, whichever happens first. And if this squeeze does fire, this one could push it below these, breaking that previous support, and we could see some more selling coming into the Dow as well. And just like the overall market, everything is looking quite bearish, and especially the small caps or Russell here. So we're getting the strong selling, trying to get this reversion. We got it, and now it's just chopping back and forth, kind of going nowhere. And I think it's just waiting for this squeeze to kind of start firing to that downside where we should be retesting these previous lows, because this one's structured just like the majority of the indices are looking very bearish with negatively stacked EMAs and price not being able to reclaim that 21 EMA. So overall, the market is in a very interesting spot right now. There is a lot of news going on with Ukraine and Russia, and a lot of news is having a big impact on this market right now. So definitely just be wary of that. A lot of intraday swings potentially could be happening based off that news, so just be safe and play smart with your money. But overall, I am bearish on the market. That being said, going into this shorter week, I do have 5 plays, some of them to the upside, majority of them to the downside, and we can get into those, starting off here with Broadcom. And this one is to the downside. We're starting off by getting this low compression squeeze, but I just like its overall structure as a whole. So the semiconductors are looking quite weak as a sector themselves, and I think that they will start to sell off some more as well. And Broadcom is kind of in a good buy zone right now, to why I like it. Before we could see more selling, this would be the place to get in. So we do not have any stacked EMAs. Our price is holding and rejecting that 21 EMA to the downside, and we've lost that bullish momentum on the squeeze histogram, which is showing me that this one, its least resistance is going to be to that downside. And I do think that we could easily retest these previous lows with this one, as long as the market continues to show weakness like it is. So this is my first play to the downside. Ideally, I'm looking anywhere between this -2 and -3 ATR for a price target for it to hit. The next one here is actually to the upside, and it is Keurig Dr Pepper. So our squeeze has been holding that 0 line on the histogram perfectly. It's getting very close to it, but never actually fell down below it. And we keep going in and out of bullish momentum and losing bullish momentum, but its structure is what I like here the most. It's been holding this 21 EMA basically perfectly, getting a few closes below it, but reclaiming it right away. We also do have positively stacked EMAs, and this histogram is showing bullishness on that as well. So overall, this one is looking kind of like an outlier to me compared to the rest of the market, where it actually is showing still good bullish structure and could be one of those honey badgers that doesn't really follow the market but kind of does its own thing. So definitely keep your eye on a few of those random ones that have relative strength compared to the market, and they could be good trades that are still bullish even when the rest of the market is looking very bearish. Next one here is lows to the downside. So we get this flush, get your reversion, and then we start to sell off again, get the reversion, sell off again. And now that we have this daily squeeze setting up with that bearish momentum, we'll be looking for a reversion either ideally to the 21 EMA or even this 8 EMA. I would take an entry at due to it looking like it keeps rejecting that level. So if we do get that reversion up to that level, that would be a good buy zone in my opinion. But with this squeeze looking to fire to the downside with no stacked EMAs, I think that we could actually break below this previous low and we could see some more selling here on lows coming into this week. Next one here is Nike, also to the downside. Big gap down, and now we're just kind of going into a consolidation state. But one of the things I like to keep my eye on is that even in this consolidation state, it cannot reclaim that 21 EMA at all. And this daily squeeze has bearish momentum and is looking to fall to that downside as well. We do have negatively stacked EMAs, so ideally look for a reversion back up to that 21 EMA for an entry, and then look for it to fall back down to a -2 or a -3 ATR to take your profits. And then last but not least here is Tesla to the downside as well. Just like a lot of the other bearish ones I've been looking at, it's been just rejecting that 21, rejecting multiple times, not being able to reclaim it, which definitely shows me that this is in a bearish structure. We also have this squeeze histogram below that zero line and bearish momentum, and then ideally would look for a reversion back to up to the 8 EMA, because I think this one could start moving down fast, because usually Tesla is a pretty volatile one with pretty large moves. So an 8 EMA would be a good entry in my opinion. A better one's going to be your 21, but anything in between there would be a great time to get short on Tesla. So this is the watch list for the week. Hopefully it gives you all a few other stocks to add to your own watch list and a few other things within the market itself to keep your eye on. So let's go out there on Tuesday and make it a great trading week, everybody.